A Heist on the Ice, a Kennedy Reeves Mystery by M.J. Mack. Kennedy Reeves, cruise director for the Helio, was standing in the lobby, having bid goodbye to the last of the passengers. The ship had just completed a trip to Mexico, and the staff and crew were looking forward to a well-deserved day of rest before their next cruise when they would return to their Eastern Caribbean route, shepherding passengers from Port Canaveral to Nassau, Grand Turk, the Dominican Republic, and then back to reality in Port Canaveral. The cruise to Mexico had been a rollout for the new partnership between the Classic Style Network and the Sunny Days Cruise Line, and although there had been some dramatic moments during the trip, it had ended well. Devoid of passengers, a busy but relaxed quietness descended as everyone went about their duties. Kennedy looked over her never-ending to-do list. Other than the staff meeting scheduled with their boss Alfred in an hour, everything else could be pushed off. She wanted to find Mila, her best friend, and the director of the ship's spa to see if she wanted to have dinner in Port Canaveral that evening. She stopped by Oaza, the ship's spa, only to be informed by Anna Marie that Mila was on the pier accepting a delivery. "The passengers wiped us out of products," Anna Marie grinned. "This new look makes people want to take home a piece of the spa, even if it's a bottle of shampoo." Kennedy gave Anna Marie a smile. "Not a bad problem to have. Will you be able to get off the ship? We don't have any passengers until tomorrow afternoon." Anna Marie nodded. "As soon as Mila comes back with the new inventory. My mom sent my Christmas presents to Tradewinds, and Mr. and Mrs. Papadopoulos are holding them for me. I can't wait to see them, and what my mom sent." Kennedy's heart warmed at the thought of the owners of the small motel near the cruise terminal. Many years ago, George and Helen opened their hearts and their motel to Kennedy when she had nowhere else to go. They had adopted the Helio team over the years and insisted that everyone use their address for package deliveries as an excuse to see them. "I'll tell Mila to hurry up," Kennedy said, and she left the spa, skipping down the main staircase, and walked quickly through the lobby. When she reached the gangway, she took a moment to survey the busy pier. It reminded her of an anthill, as forklifts delivered food, liquor, and other items onto the ship for the next cruise. Kennedy saw Ali Assad, the ship's purchasing manager, standing in the middle of the organized chaos. Ali was wearing his typical scowl while checking the delivery slips against the parade of supplies arriving. Her eyes traveled around the dock, and she saw Chef Michel making dramatic gestures to his sous chef Anno as he inspected a crate of fresh fruit. Rosemary, the executive housekeeper, was busy counting cases of toilet paper on a pallet before a forklift loaded it onto the ship. And Franklin Blah, the chief engineer, walked jauntily down the pier with a bundle of PVC pipe hoisted on his broad shoulder. Finally, Kennedy saw Omar Mier, the Helio's director of security, as he walked briskly toward the ship, and her heart did a little flip-flop. Over the last 9 months, their friendship had blossomed into something more. However, moments before the Helio left Port Canaveral for Mexico a few days earlier, Omar received a telephone call that caused him to become distant and moody on the cruise, leaving Kennedy perplexed and uneasy. Having spent the morning with the local authorities, giving them custody of an accused kidnapper, Omar now needed to address a matter that had weighed heavily on him during the cruise. But it would have to wait until after the staff meeting with Alfred. Kennedy began to raise her hand to wave to Omar and call out to him, but she stopped when she saw a woman with long dark hair walking purposefully down the pier, trying to get Omar's attention. "Omar!" the woman shouted, and he stopped in his tracks and slowly turned around. "What are you doing here?" Kennedy heard him shout over the wind. I tried to call you several times, but you wouldn't answer. I had an urgent matter to deal with this morning, and I have a meeting in an hour. I was going to call you as soon as it was over. You were always so impatient, even as a little girl." The wind died down, and the woman brushed strands of hair away from her face with one hand. "Matters more important than this?" she shouted, not realizing that she no longer needed to yell over the roar of the wind to be heard. She held up a sheaf of papers wrapped in light blue paper. "Omar, would you please sign the divorce papers? I want to get on with my life." It was as if a vacuum had suddenly sucked every noise from the pier, and every head turned to watch and listen to the conversation unfolding between Omar and the woman standing before him. Omar took his reading glasses from the breast pocket of his suit and put them on. He made an impatient gesture for the pale blue bundle, and the woman handed it to him. Kennedy could see him flip angrily through the pages. Then he abruptly began walking back toward the cruise terminal, leaving the dark-haired woman to take 2 steps for each one of his to keep up. That was the last that Kennedy or any of the others saw of Omar. The staff meeting that was supposed to occur never happened, and those in the conference room sat quietly as they struggled to understand what they had seen and heard earlier on the pier. Later that evening, they each received a note from Alfred, informing them that a temporary security director would be found to take Omar's place until further notice. Thank you for listening. This has been MJ Mack reading an excerpt from my upcoming book, A Heist on the Ice, Book 3 in the Kennedy Reeves series, which will be available on April 12, 2023.